Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you so much for joining us on this and all of our previous episodes and our future episodes of our show. We couldn't do this without you. We can't do this without you. If you're able to, give us a thumbs up, a like, a follow, share, comment, all those things are free to do, and it helps us get closer to our goal of helping 3 billion people over the course of my lifetime and beyond. Uh, and it still just blows me away the support that's coming in and has come in, especially as of late, and pushing 80 countries, 800 cities worldwide. Uh, it's really, I got like goosebumps. Uh, it's uh, it's a humbling thing, a humbling experience uh, to know that this little organization, this little show, uh, is really having the reach that it's having. And it's just an incredible thing. And if I were to give any advice to anyone who is tuning in before, or if this is your first episode, or if you know somebody, family member, colleague, teammate, what have you, and you're in a place of being able to, guide and positively influence uh, any individuals, even if it's just ourselves, that I would say, as I've said before, I don't think it's really a magic formula. I think if you dream, then nothing's impossible. Doesn't mean that every last goal and every last bit of of thought and again a goal and whatever those goals are doesn't mean all of those are going to come to fruition. But I'll tell you this, if you have a small goal, you're going to be reaching for small things. And if you have a big goal, chances are uh, that you're going to be able to accomplish a lot more than if you set that smaller goal. Now, small goals are important, especially getting something off the ground, starting something new. And even if it's not something brand new, there's always going to be people that are going to question. They're going to say, hey, this is silly. You're talking about this, and that's just way out there. Uh, why don't you think a little bit more realistic? And I say to anybody, I am thinking realistic because I know God has control and there's nothing he can't do. There's no situation he can't help bring me, the organization, associates, individuals. They can't bring us through. And I think uh, when we think of things like that, it's just all the more fuel added to the flame, to the fire of desire, of perseverance, of not wanting to give up, of wanting to make a difference in a positive way. again, even if it's just that one person, that's one less person that potentially would have to go through a situation or a set of situations and circumstances and experiences that may be not very healthy. And so dream big, never underestimate not only yourself, but never underestimate God and who your higher power is. That's who it is for me, for our organization. But again, we're uh, we're just sharing our experiences and our stories. Uh, Nothing is a cookie cutter. Nothing is all one size fits all. We're again just sharing what we can to have a positive impact on as many people while uh, while we're still here on Earth. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching, listening here in the United States, across the world. It means the world to us to even just have a millisecond of your time that you would even again just take a millisecond or that small amount of time to look into Voices for Voices in our show, which is our most popular uh, area, I guess, to date. And so we have that structured foundation and backbone as we continue. So thank you. And mental health is an absolutely huge part of everybody's life, whether we think it is or it isn't. Uh, Fact of the matter is that mental health is a part of every one of us, every one of our lives. And that's a key pillar of our organization. Again, we have a ton of episodes, over 280 at this point, and on multiple episodes, I talk about my mental health, my story, my experiences, and I continue to share. And so this episode is going to be a little bit of a continuation, uh, and a little bit not, because I'm going to be sharing others' mental health. Uh, and so it's again, it's mental health related. And I know I go through my struggles day in, day out, have good days, bad days, days in between, you name it. I'm sure, uh, I want to say I'm sure as I'm speaking for everybody, but I would, with a high degree of certainty, think that all of our days, while we would, want them to be the best, uh, may not always end up that way. I think that's part of Voices for Voices for me is especially on the days where I don't know, I don't feel like I'm making a difference. I don't feel like we're making a difference. Uh, we're not getting that feedback right, that instantaneous feedback that we I crave, that real time, real feedback. Yeah, doing a good job. And here's real time information. And we do get that. It's just not every second of every day. Uh, and so I'm able to step into Voices for Voices so much more in those days, in those moments where I may be going through a rough patch. Maybe somebody knows, maybe they don't know. Uh, this is Voices for Voices is say, not a physical being as far as a child. I have a physical hunter. Uh, but Voices for Voices is an avenue, not just for you and others. It's an avenue for me. I equate it a little bit to therapy, where everybody has a little, different opinion potentially on what therapy is, if it's good, if it's bad, what it means, what people are going to think about you or me. And I've kind of just gotten, or I've like to think I've gotten past it as much as possible. Uh, More so now than when I started this journey back in 2017. Hitting rock bottom, mental health wise, where I started to take ownership of things myself. It doesn't make me a perfect person. I'm not, nobody is, but just from things I was beating myself up about, uh, and just not addressing, not talking through them, not just not being comfortable in my own skin, basically. Uh, and so now, with Voices for Voices, I have I have an outlet just as you do, and everyone across the world, if they so choose to tune in. We welcome any and uh, every viewer or listener be a part of our movement, where it's that outlet for me where I can talk about real topics. And the thing about real topics is not all of them are easy to talk about. We talk about good things, good times. Well, not all moments are good in that sense. And there's a lot of things that fortunately go on in our world and have gone on before I was brought into the world and long after I'm gone from this earthly world. And and it's talking about those topics, those areas that not a lot of people want to talk about. And I get it. Everybody has got things they're comfortable with. And a lot of the things that I'm comfortable with sharing and talking about might not be that way for you or others. And that's okay. But we still have to respect when somebody like ourselves are sharing and talking about real topics. Everything is not, this this again, I can't say it enough, that nobody in this world's perfect and sinless. God is the only one. Um, so that means we all sin at some degree of level, day in and day out. Again, we can try our darndest not to, but the reality is we're imperfect. Human beings are imperfect beings. And so when we talk about the hard topics, they're just that. They're hard. They're hard to comprehend. They're hard to fathom. They're hard to think about. Uh, some are dangerous. Some are what could maybe be considered, oh, that's extreme. And while that might be the case, that doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because a topic in an area is extreme doesn't mean it's not happening. Hasn't happened. Not going to continue to happen. So I think that's first and foremost to think about. And then secondly, as we uh, head into the second half of this episode, we talked about mental health affects everybody from middle America to Hollywood and all areas in between, above and below, whatever the demographic, it doesn't matter. We all have mental health. And the reason for me wanting to do and cover this, kind of secondary area of this show, particularly, is this news that I came across today. And it goes a little bit like this, right? One of the biggest rock stars and one of the biggest rock bands of all time, Metallica, lead singer James Hetfield. He's gone through a lot. We've all gone through a lot throughout our lives. And as somebody who's gone through a lot, sometimes they're easier than others. Sometimes they're easier to talk about than others. And for him, just recently at one of him and his band, Metallica's, you know, ultra huge stadium tour that's been going on has found its way from here in the United States down to where some of you may be watching and listening, and that's Brazil. And I'm not sure how many dates they have, per city. Uh, Sometimes there's multiple, multiple dates, uh, right? So you have some cities and areas that are much larger, and so to give as many people the ability to have an opportunity to attend the concert, especially of this magnitude, a band oftentimes, if it makes sense, they'll schedule an extra date or two in the same area, same city. And so I'm not sure on how that's set up, but that doesn't matter. What matters is James Hetfield during one of these shows in Brazil brought up that he's struggling um, mental health wise. And if my mind doesn't fail me at this moment, I believe there was a documentary in the past that detailed a little bit about James and some of his rough spots he went through. The band, splitting up for a period of time, and they, they wanted James to get help, and there's that denial period. I mean, I've been there, so I know what that exactly is like. So, anyways, this was many years ago, and so here in 2025, in the middle of July, James came forward and at one of the shows in Brazil and mentioned that he's struggling. And you may be wondering, well, they're Metallica is one of the biggest bands of all time. James is one of the biggest rock stars, lead frontman, vocalist, whatever, however you want to, however you want to, give him a title like that, or think of him like that as a part of a band. Uh, and so he's right. He's what we would consider upper echelon, has potentially, again, potentially has money, they can pay for some of, these perceived problems and issues that some of us think about, like, well, he's got all this money or she's got all this money, and I don't understand. If I had all that money, everything would be fine. I would, have my cars and I'd have my houses and my yachts and whatever. Uh, and this is just yet another another example of money can help in certain instances, but it it's not a magic cure-all for everything. And James isn't the only celebrity artist who has had these types of challenges. We all do. It just depends on, how comfortable we are to talk about them. It's a little bit easier for me because I've been talking about them for going on, coming in November, 8 years. Uh, and there's others that are just starting that journey, and maybe they'll want to talk about it, maybe they won't, and that's not up to us to judge. Again, we're just talking about information that we have as an organization, I have as a human being. And so for James really to even share that, right? I mean, because these concerts that, Metallica's playing, there's 40, 50, 60,000 people. And so he's not just talking to, uh, one person when when he's in front of that microphone or behind the microphone, however, want to think of it. And so there's a lot of people that saw it in person, and and some captured it, on their social medias. And so what I'd like to say to James and anybody else that's out there, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're a rock star, whether you're not, we're all in this together. None of us are perfect. None of us are sinless. And talking about like, hey, like I'm going through, some rough areas right now. That's not a sign of weakness. That used to be the thought. There used to be a thought in my own head that, well, if I talk about it, if I have to take medication, if this, if that, if this, if that, and that, then I'm a weak person. If I show emotion and cry, then I'm a weak person. And that's just not the case. From my experience, talking about challenges, reaching out for help, it was both the scariest time for me and the most rewarding. And the reason why it was rewarding is because back in 2017, when I hit my rock bottom, and I still hit rock bottom from time to time, uh, but it's many years that had just stacked up on each other. I just I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to think of myself as like, well, one of those people. Like I'm a nutcase because I have to spend some time and uh, to be get that initial treatment, that initial assessment. So James, we're all here for you. Thank you for being so brave to just say that. Just say, hey, I'm struggling. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. And I would think now you're even more of an inspiration to even more people because they're seeing you for who you are, who I am. For human beings, that's who we are. There might be times where somebody plays in an actress or an actor in a TV show or on a silver screen, and they're able to play somebody else for a period of time. But at the end of the day, it comes back to we're human beings and we do have emotions, whether we want to believe it or whether we don't, whether we want to think others do or others don't. because of whatever, like, oh, they got money, so everything, I don't understand why, they people have problems like that. Like, they don't have to deal with what I'm dealing with. Uh, and I'll just say to those that think that, uh, I was there before, I thought that before, but I've had my eyes really open, uh, eyes wide open, really, like that Ed Sheeran song, because of me, because of what I've gone through and am going through, of what our guests talk about, what they've been through and are going through. Uh, I have nothing but respect for anybody that talks about what what they're going through, what they've went through, because in the end, when we leave Earth, eh, I would like to hopefully think that I was able to help more people than I wasn't able to help. For a good part of my life, it was Justin, 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 and there's days that there probably seems like that. And again, I'm not perfect, but there's less days like that and more days where I'm thinking of how our organization, how I can try to be a light and help as much as I can, as much as we can as an organization. And again, whether we help one person or 1 billion people, anywhere on that continuum, that's it. If we're talking about one, that's one less person that's had to think about and go through tough situations, or maybe they've thought about it and go, man, no, I don't want to. But maybe watching and hearing our show and hearing and listening, hearing and watching me or our other guests or other current events, other topics and areas like with James, with Metallica. Uh, this James is strong to be talking about this. We're all strong to be talking about mental health and when we're going through some tough things. We can talk about suicide. Suicide is a real thing. People die by suicide. Again, on all sides of that continuum, all ends. Doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you don't have. Doesn't matter how big your house is or how small. Uh, it is. If you don't have one, uh, we can go through just from the music world, right? Uh, so Chester Bennington, Cornell, Taylor Hawkins, and that was in Brazil. So that's, I think, another reason why I wanted to cover and talk about James and how brave and that he is and continues to be to talk about his challenges, because that was the first thing that I thought about. I was like, oh, Brazil. I think that's near. I'm not sure exactly what city and that, but in that country, that's where Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters, the incredible drummer, passed away. Liam Payne, I think it, I think he also. Uh, I'm not familiar with exactly what works that Liam did, if they were acting, music, a combination, but a very well known, celebrity, well known person. And I know there's circumstances and people have been arrested around that. So we're not really sure all around what happened. Uh, but nonetheless, Liam's not with us, unfortunately. Taylor's not with us, unfortunately. Chester Bennington isn't with us, unfortunately. Chris Cornell. isn't with us, unfortunately. Stitch isn't. I believe I said his name. I sure hope I said his his name correctly. Is on the Ellen show for so many years as DJ. Had what would seem to be a not as troubled as many life, and yet that led to him. I believe he traveled on foot. Uh, how he got to the motel doesn't matter. Uh, but he left his house. His wife told said like, well, it's that's not like him. She feared. She called, and someone at the motel ended up finding him passed away. There were single gunshot wound. And so these aren't fun topics. These aren't fun areas that we cover on a lot of our shows. But these are things that are happening in real life and have happened in real life. And so if we can help one person to step away from that ledge, to not think about it, to say, you know what, I'm going to live another day. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to get some help. There's more living for me to do on Earth. Uh, I mean, right? I mean, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. We want people to succeed. We want people to feel good. We want people to like who they are. And we all have flaws. We all do. Again, it goes back to none of us are sinless. None of us are, no matter how much we think and we want that to be. So when we have the ability to, like our show and with myself and our guests, we don't take it lightly when we talk about these topics because we know they're very serious. Some of them are very dangerous to be talking about and sharing. But again, that's real life. We can either choose to try to talk about some things head on, or we can just turn the opposite way. The whole bystander effect, somebody, I don't know, I'll give the example of I traveled a few years ago to a location that was very popular. And I was walking from one place to another, and there was a person that was passed out, laying on the sidewalk, and there were a lot of people in this area. And I think maybe there was a couple of people that were helping that had dialed, 911, and you could hear the sirens coming. And uh, I was just coming up on the scene when the squad got there. But I looked at and I thought about how many of those people who had kind of looked and glanced that were ahead of me, and they just kept walking. I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to get pulled into this situation. Well, I think that's what makes part of what makes us so unique as an organization and as a charity is that we try our best not to look the other way. We try to talk about hard topics, hard things, hard experiences people have been through, our guests have been through, we have as individuals, as a human race. And so whenever we think that something's inhumane or especially which being inhumane is really also a really a public safety concern, public health concern. We want to help. That's what it comes down to. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to quantify. even though I'd like to quantify, right? We'd all like to have like, this crystal ball or whatever and go, oh, well, I just helped another person. Let me pat myself on the back for that one. Uh, that would be nice to, have that running tally. And that's part of what makes this business really hard for us is because we're not able to see every single person that we were able to help, that we were able to uh, give inspiration and self-worth to believe that, which is the case, that we have more living to do here on Earth. There's more things for us to do. And you could have your very own organization. You could have your very own show that's way more popular than ours, and I'd be okay with that. I think anybody would be okay with that because you'd be helping people. And right, we're all in this together. And then you want to think about anybody that's been a victim of any type of crime, any type of abuse, any type of trauma that's at the hands of somebody else. We want to have justice for those victims. So we believe that there should be accountability for those who are doing things that are against the law, against the law of humanity, of instead of helping our fellow brother and sister, we're hurting them. We do believe in justice, and victims deserve that. They most definitely deserve justice for the people that have abused them, have forced them into situations and doing unthinkable acts. Uh, and so that's us as human beings and being human, being humane. And so we cover quite a few areas here on this episode. But at the end of the day, thank you, James. Thank you, Metallica, James Hetfield for Metallica for sharing that you're going through some challenges and some struggles, just like the average person that might be at one of his shows to be going through some of the same things. And by James saying that and sharing that, may have helped that person or persons more than we know, more than he knows. So James, thank you for being brave and strong. We can't thank you enough for doing that because it takes so much courage and strength to talk about that face to face with a therapist, with one person, but in front of thousands and thousands, and knowing that it's going to be caught on film and that, and you still stepped up to the plate and you still shared that, man. That's incredible. And for us in the United States, we do have if you or somebody you know a is going through a hard time, going through a type of a crisis, you can reach out. You can text 988 You can go to 988 lifeline.org, I believe is the website, where you can talk 24/7 in English and Spanish, on chat, on text. You can call, uh, and it's my understanding that the individuals, a lot of them that are on there are people who have gone through trauma and gone through some things themselves. So these aren't people that are going to be judging, and they shouldn't be judging anybody, uh, no matter what, but especially in this particular field. That I've always thought that when I'm talking to somebody, if somebody has gone through something similar, I feel a little bit more comfortable that they're not just preaching from a book, uh, because that's all helpful, but it's also very helpful, or even more helpful, when somebody's able to say, you know what, I've been through some crazy stuff too. I've been through a lot too. I've been through some trauma. And then they share a little bit to just give a little bit of a nugget, an insight into their life. And if you're somebody that has an interest, we have a huge shortage of mental health practitioners, licensed social workers. So please check out your local community colleges, universities. Uh, Talk to your doctor when you have a visit, your therapist, and you want to learn more. We'd love to have you join us in the movement to help as many people as we can. And so they don't feel like they're alone. Because it took me a long time to find out that I'm not alone and you're not alone. So the people we're talking to, they're not alone either. None of us are alone. We're all in this together. So thank you for joining us on this particularly deep episode, content wise, term wise, experience wise, show of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder, Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Until next time, please be a voice or for you or somebody in need. We'll see you. Bye bye.